Good morning. What a pleasure it is to meet you in a place that I know so well. My name is Kathleen Dill, although many people knew me only as matron, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Please call me Kathleen. I was born in Ballymena in Ireland on the 14th of June 1880, so technically I am Irish. However, I've always thought of myself as Scottish. After all, I came to live in Scotland when I was only 1 year old. My father was an Irishman, the very Reverend Samuel Dill, and my mother, Agnes Rowe, was English. In 1881, my father was appointed minister of Alloway Parish Church in Ayrshire, and we moved to Scotland. My parents had had a daughter before me, but she died in infancy, so I was the oldest child. After we were settled in the manse in Alloway, other children followed. Marcus, Robert, Agnes, John, Hesse, Alfred, and finally Louisa, after whom my mother said, "Enough is enough." The boys were sent off to private schools in England for their education, but we girls had a governess to teach us at home. I was determined to be independent, and so I moved across Scotland to Edinburgh, where I trained and qualified as a nurse. Nowadays, of course, I would have studied medicine and become a doctor, but when I was a young woman, that was impossible. In any case, in August 1914, war was declared, and we knew immediately that we would be involved and that we would be essential. I immediately joined the Queen Alexandria's Imperial Military Nursing Service. Long name. We were called QAs, or simply nurses. I was assigned to the HMHS Oxfordshire. Now, the Oxfordshire had been a cargo ship up until war broke out. They spent less than 2 weeks converting her to a hospital ship, but by the middle of August, we had sailed for the Orkney Islands with beds for 562 patients. I think the authorities expected that the Germans would attack our fleet at Scapa Flow, but it very quickly became obvious that our time, skills, and capacity were being wasted. And so we were sent back down to the English Channel. Thank goodness, I thought. Now I can do something useful. By October 1914, we were treating wounded soldiers being evacuated from France to Belgium. For 6 months, we sailed back and forth across the Channel with soldiers wounded in the trenches. Who knows how many lives we saved? After 6 months, it was clear that casualties in the Gallipoli campaign were dreadful, and so we sailed for the Mediterranean. We moored in a harbour on the small Greek island of Lemnos, and from there we made short, repeated journeys back and forth to the beaches of the Dardanelles, evacuating and treating casualties. I would like to note that the Turks respected our Red Cross status and did not shell our hospital ship. As time went on, the numbers of wounded dropped gradually until almost all our patients had dysentery or typhoid. And then, as winter came and our boys were trapped without adequate clothing, we began to treat more and more for frostbite. It was an awful place, but once again I could see that I was doing useful and important work. All through January 1916, we evacuated British, Australian, Indian, and New Zealand troops to safety in Egypt, treating them as we sailed. When this work was complete, we headed back home to Southampton with hundreds of patients. After repairs, we were back on the move, heading to the Persian Gulf, evacuating wounded soldiers from East Africa and transferring them to hospitals in South Africa. It was at this time that I heard the terrible news from home that 2 of my little brothers had been killed in action, fighting in Flanders. In October 1917, 3 years after joining the nursing service, I made the difficult decision to resign and return home. The news of my brother's deaths had affected my parents badly, and my father's health was deteriorating. And so in late 1917, I found myself once again back in sleepy Alloway. The following year, my father retired from Alloway Church, and we all moved to Morningside, Edinburgh. Time passed, the war ended, and I returned to nursing in Edinburgh. I never married and eventually rose to the position of matron. Very few of my patients or colleagues knew of all that I had seen and done in France, Turkey, Egypt, and Africa. After my retirement, I travelled the world, sometimes alone, sometimes with my sister. I lived a long, interesting, and useful life and died at the age of 84.